I'm not sure. I'm debating in my head if I want to go ahead and roll this tape or if I want to make my points first. I think this is what I'll do. Gabe, go ahead and timestamp this because this is going to be good. All right. Well, I'm just saying. I want you guys to think about this. 4 Americans were kidnapped while traveling to Mexico. So I jotted down. I have this legal pad that I'll use. I'll jot down some of my thoughts and all that kind of good stuff. Did you see that show up in the video, Gabe? That was pretty cool, right? Like you get an inside look of things, get an inside look of all the work that I'm doing, putting together behind the scenes. Thank you, my formerly fingerprinted fingertips. Listen, 2 things that I want you to understand. This is why I believe this story is much bigger than people will let on. The story of 4 Americans being kidnapped while traveling to Mexico. Guys, I want you to understand. Do you understand how weak the Mexican cartels must perceive the U.S. president of being to have the audacity to kidnap 4 Americans? Maybe they didn't know at the time. They sure as hell know now. We know Mexican President Labrador has spoken out about it. They know. Understand how weak the Mexican cartels believe our president is. And number two, understand this. The cartel. Okay. So we just get this just coming in while I'm talking about the story. 2 of the Americans have now been found dead. 2 of the Americans have now been found dead. Number 1, do you understand how the Mexican cartels are looking at us and looking at our president? They have the audacity to now kill Americans, kidnap them and kill them. The world does not respect us. Mexican cartels do not respect the president of the United States. And they're also telling us another story. Number 1, all right, let me reiterate this because I want to make sure you get this. Do you understand how weak the U.S. president must be for Mexican cartels to kidnap and now kill U.S. citizens in broad daylight? That's the first point. Number 2, the cartels are telling us who runs the U.S. southern border. And it isn't the Mexican government, and it's no longer the United States government. They're saying, we're in charge. You're going to play by our rules. I would tell everyone traveling to Mexico, American, I would tell any American, as long as this freaking dementia patient is in the White House, do not travel outside of the United States, inside of a danger zone, or to a country where they're not technically allies, or if they're just seriously violent like Mexico. Mexico is allies, but obviously they don't have a government running the country anymore. The cartels have taken over because Biden has allowed them to take over with our open border policy. They're getting rich as hell. Their military is just as strong as the Mexican military with weaponry now. Thank you, Joe Biden, you jackass. Let's roll this tape. Good God, I'm getting hot. Let's roll this tape.
Searching for 4 Americans kidnapped across the border. And tonight, the State Department is working to try to bring them home.
As CBS 2's Dick Brennan reports, their kidnapping may be a case of mistaken identity.
A nearby camera captured the moment that 4 Americans were kidnapped at gunpoint. They were traveling in a minivan with North Carolina plates when they came under fire. A woman is seen being pushed into the back of the truck by a gunman. 2 more people who appear wounded are dragged aboard. This happened on Friday in Matamoros, Mexico, about a 12-minute drive from Brownsville, Texas. Mexico's president says the Americans were there to buy cheaper medicine, something hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizens do each year. But instead, they ended up in the crossfire between 2 groups. It's theorized they could have been mistakenly targeted.
And we will continue to coordinate with Mexico and push them to bring those responsible to justice.
Matamoros is under a level 4 do not travel advisory by the State Department, the same threat level issued for Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan.
Do not travel. We encourage Americans to heed that heed that advice.
Matamoros is a city of roughly 500,000 people and has been home to the warring factions of the Gulf drug cartel for decades.
And we have a problem across the border that we haven't addressed, and it's violence.
Congressman Vicente Gonzalez of Texas says this isn't the first time this has happened and says the U.S. has to take strong action.
We need a much more aggressive approach. We need to be targeting cartels as if they were terrorists.
All right, so let's go ahead and end. We'll go ahead and end that clip now. The U.S. was offering a $50,000 reward, as if that's going to do any freaking thing when it comes to Mexican cartels that are making freaking millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on their human trafficking, drug trafficking campaign right across the southern border. Joe Biden, let me tell you something. Joe Biden, you're responsible for these dead Americans. I want you to hear this. Joe Biden, you are responsible for these dead Americans. You're a freaking disaster, from Afghanistan to the Russia-Ukraine war to the Mexican border, and now 4 kidnapped Americans, at least 2 dead. You're responsible, Joe Biden, you freaking loser of a president. You're a disgusting, despicable human being and the worst president in American history. You are the worst president. I wish you didn't have dementia. I wish you could understand this. You are the worst president that we've ever had, and you are despicable. You are evil. You are God, I can't even find the words, Gabe.